Most people never become rich because they're playing a completely different game than wealthy people, and they don't even know it. The gap between broke and rich isn't about how hard you work or how smart you are. It's about understanding one fundamental truth that schools never teach you. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think about your typical person. They wake up, they go to work, they trade their time for money. That's the game they're playing. 8 hours of labor equals a paycheck. It feels safe. It feels normal. But here's the problem. Your time is finite. You only get 24 hours a day, and you can only work so many of those hours. There's a hard ceiling on how much money you can make trading time for dollars. Wealthy people figured out a different game entirely. They stopped trading time for money. Instead, they built systems that make money without requiring their direct time and effort. A business, investments, rental properties, intellectual property. These things generate income while they sleep, while they're on vacation, while they're doing literally anything else. This isn't about luck or inheritance or being born into the right family, though those things certainly help some people. This is about a fundamental shift in how you think about earning money. The richest people in the world aren't the hardest workers. They're the people who figured out how to create leverage, how to make their money work for them instead of the other way around. Warren Buffett doesn't work 80-hour weeks. He doesn't need to. His money is making more money. But here's what stops most people from ever making this shift: mindset. Specifically, the belief that the only legitimate way to make money is through a job, through trading hours for dollars. It's so ingrained in us that we don't even question it. Parents tell their kids to get good grades so they can get a good job. Schools teach you how to be a good employee, not how to build wealth. The entire system is designed to keep you in that time for money trap. The second thing that stops people is fear. Building a business is risky. Investing is risky. What if you lose money? What if you fail? So most people choose the illusion of security, the steady paycheck. But that paycheck is also the ceiling on their wealth. They're trading risk for a guaranteed mediocrity. And the third thing is knowledge. You can't build what you don't understand. Most people have no idea how to start a business, how to invest, how to create passive income streams. And because they don't know, they assume it's too complicated or too hard or only for special people. But it's not. Thousands of ordinary people have figured this out. They've crossed over from the time for money game into the leverage game, and their lives look completely different as a result. So, in this series, we're going to break down exactly how that shift happens. We're going to look at the specific mindsets, the specific strategies, and the specific actions that separate people who stay broke from people who build real wealth. Because once you understand the game, you can play it. The question is whether you're willing to see the game for what it is. So let's start with the first barrier. Most people treat money like it's something that happens to them, not something they build. They wait for a raise. They hope for a bonus. They play the lottery. And meanwhile, the wealthy are treating money like a skill they need to master. Here's what I mean. When you're broke, your relationship with money is purely emotional. You earn it, you spend it, and if there's anything left over, you feel lucky. But that's not a strategy. That's just surviving. The wealthy separate themselves by treating money like a game with actual rules. The first rule is this: your income is not your wealth. This breaks people's brains. You can make $100,000 a year and die broke. You can make $40,000 and build $1 million net worth. The difference isn't how much you earn. It's what you do with what you earn. Most people have a spending problem they call a lifestyle. They make more. They spend more. Their expenses rise to match their income exactly. So they stay on the same financial treadmill forever, just running faster. The wealthy do the opposite. They make more and their expenses stay the same. That gap between earnings and spending becomes their wealth engine. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not about being cheap. It's about being intentional. The wealthy don't deprive themselves. They just don't spend money on things that don't matter to them. They cut ruthlessly on the stuff that doesn't align with their goals, and they're generous with the stuff that does. The second barrier is that most people never learn how money actually works. They don't understand compound interest. They don't understand how assets generate income. They don't understand the difference between earning money and building wealth. So they stay trapped in the earning phase forever, trading hours for dollars, completely dependent on their ability to work. The wealthy understand that money is a tool for buying assets, and assets are things that make money while you sleep. A rental property makes money. A business makes money. Stocks make money. Your salary does not. Your salary is just the seed capital you use to buy assets. This is why time matters so much in wealth building. If you start at 25, you have 40 years of compound growth. If you start at 45, you have 20 years. The math is completely different. But most people don't start until they're forced to, and by then, the math is working against them. The third barrier is psychological. Most people have a ceiling on what they believe they can earn or own. They grew up seeing a certain financial reality, and they internalize that as the limit of what's possible for them. Someone from a wealthy family sees wealth as normal. Someone from a broke family sees it as impossible. That belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The wealthy operate from a completely different assumption. They assume they can figure out how to make more money. They assume wealth is available to them. So when an opportunity shows up, they see it. When a strategy works, they scale it. They're not waiting for permission or proof. They're acting from abundance, not scarcity. And this is where the game starts to shift. Once you understand that wealth is built, not inherited. Once you understand that it's a skill, not luck. Once you understand that the gap between broke and rich is actually just a series of small decisions made consistently over time. That's when you can start to play the game differently. And the first decision most people get wrong is how they think about money itself. They see it as something to spend. You earn a paycheck, you pay your bills, you buy things, and whatever's left over is yours to play with. That's the consumption mindset. It's the default. It's also why most people stay broke. Rich people think about money differently. They think about it as a tool for making more money. Every dollar that comes in gets evaluated. Does this dollar work for me, or does it work against me? If you spend it, it's gone. If you invest it, it grows. That's not a small difference. That's the entire difference. But here's where it gets interesting. You don't need to be rich to start thinking like this. You just need to redirect your attention. Most people know they should save money. They just don't actually do it because it feels impossible. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Their expenses match their income almost perfectly. There's nothing left to save. So how do you break that cycle? You have to make a conscious choice to spend less than you earn. Not because you're depriving yourself, not because you're being cheap, but because you're redirecting that money toward your future self instead of your present impulses. And this is where discipline enters the picture. Discipline isn't about willpower. Willpower is finite. You wake up with a certain amount, and by the end of the day, it's depleted. Discipline is about systems. It's about making one decision once and then letting that decision work for you automatically. You set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a savings account the day after you get paid. You never see that money. You never have the chance to spend it. The decision was made once, and now it just happens. Most people never do this. They think about saving, they intend to save, but they never actually set up the system. So the money sits in their checking account and it gets spent on things they don't even remember buying. This is the gap between intention and action. And it's where most people lose the game before it even starts. Here's what's actually happening at a deeper level. Your brain is wired to seek immediate gratification. That's not a character flaw. That's evolution. For most of human history, if you didn't eat the food in front of you, someone else would. So your brain learned to take the reward now. But in the modern economy, that instinct is working against you. The person who delays gratification, who saves instead of spends, who invests instead of consumes, that person wins. Not immediately, but over time. Over years and decades. The people who become rich aren't smarter than you. They're not luckier. They just made different decisions about money. They treated saving like a bill that had to be paid before anything else. They treated investing like a non-negotiable part of their life. They automated their way to wealth because they understood that willpower alone won't cut it. And once you understand that, once you accept that you need a system and not just good intentions, you're ready for the next piece of the puzzle. The next piece is understanding what you're actually investing in. Because here's where most people derail themselves right after they finally get the automation working. They start putting money away. They feel good about it, and then they freeze. They don't know what to do with it, so it sits in a savings account earning nothing. Or worse, they panic at the first market dip and pull it all out. Rich people don't do that. They invest in things that compound. They know the difference between saving and investing, and that difference is everything. Saving is keeping your money safe. Investing is putting your money to work so it multiplies. One protects you. The other makes you rich. When you invest in index funds or stocks or real estate, you're buying assets that generate returns. Those returns then generate their own returns. That's compounding. That's how $1,000 becomes. 10,000 becomes 100,000. It doesn't happen by accident. It happens because you put your money somewhere it can grow. But most people never do this because they're afraid. They see the market go down and think they made a mistake. They see real estate prices fluctuate and think they're gambling. And sure, there's risk. But here's what they miss. The real risk isn't investing. The real risk is not investing. Because inflation eats your money, whether you're in the market or not. Your purchasing power shrinks every single year. So by playing it safe, you're actually losing. Rich people accept this. They understand that short-term volatility is the price you pay for long-term wealth. They look at a market crash and see an opportunity to buy more at lower prices. They don't panic sell. They stay the course because they have a plan and they trust the math. And the math is simple. If you invest consistently over decades, you will make money, not might, will. The S&P 500 has returned about 10% per year on average since its inception. Real estate has appreciated steadily in most markets. These aren't get-rich-quick schemes. They're boring, reliable paths to wealth that work because they're boring and reliable. but boring doesn't feel exciting. So most people chase something sexier. They try cryptocurrency they don't understand. They buy penny stocks they read about on social media. They get into MLM schemes because a friend promised them easy money, and they lose. They lose because they're trying to beat the market instead of just participating in it. Rich people participate. They buy the boring stuff. They hold it for years. They add to it regularly. And then they get richer while everyone else is chasing the next hot tip. So if you've automated your savings, your next move is to automate your investing. Put that money into diversified assets and leave it alone. Don't check it every day. Don't panic when it dips. Just let compounding do the work. Because once you've removed emotion from both saving and investing, you've solved two of the biggest obstacles that keep people poor. You're no longer fighting yourself. You're working with yourself. And that changes everything about your trajectory. So here's what I want you to do starting today. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Today. Look at your bank account. Figure out what percentage of your income you can realistically save without destroying your quality of life. Even if it's 5%. Even if it's 3%. The number doesn't matter as much as the consistency. Then set up automatic transfers. The moment money hits your account, it moves to savings before you can touch it. This is the difference between willpower and systems. Willpower fails. Systems don't. Next, open a low-cost index fund. Vanguard, Fidelity Schwab, doesn't matter which one. Buy a total market index fund or a target date fund if you want it even simpler. Then stop looking at it. Seriously, check it once a year if you must. The people who get rich aren't the ones constantly monitoring their portfolio. They're the ones who set it and forget it. Here's the hard truth nobody wants to hear. You will not become rich from your salary. Your salary is just the starting capital. Your wealth comes from what you do with what's left over. And most people do nothing with what's left over. They spend it. They rationalize it. They convince themselves they deserve it. You're going to be different. Not because you're smarter. Not because you're luckier. But because you understand something most people don't. Time and compound interest are the only two superpowers available to ordinary people. And the earlier you start using them, the less effort you actually have to put in. A person who saves 30% at age 25 will have more money at retirement than a person who saves 50% starting at age 40. Same income, different starting point. That's the math. The richest people in the world aren't rich because they earn more than you. Most of them are rich because they started early, stayed consistent, and didn't panic when markets dropped. They let compound interest do the heavy lifting, while everyone else was distracted by the noise. So when you're tempted to upgrade your lifestyle, remember this. Every dollar you don't spend today is a dollar that turns into $3 in 30 years. Every dollar you invest at 25 is worth 7 times more than a dollar invested at 45. That's not motivation. That's just math. You now know why most people never become rich. It's not because the system is rigged. It's not because they're unlucky. It's because they never learned to delay gratification. They never automated their savings, and they never gave compound interest time to work. You have all three of those tools now. Use them. Not perfectly. Not someday. Now. The difference between you and the people who become wealthy isn't talent or luck. It's the decision you make in the next 24 hours about whether you're going to act on this or forget about it by tonight. Make the decision. Set up the system. Then let time do the rest.